I'd like to say good morning to the Surfrider Foundation, and I'd like to thank you guys for servicing and keeping our local beaches safe and clean. Mike Hager from the National Post, the journalist, he stated that 19,000 people were killed from the 2011 tsunami in March, and an estimated 25 million tons of debris was caused from the wreckage. I know you guys' mission statement is to keep beaches safe and clean, and the tsunami and the trash coming from the tsunami debris could be damaging to the U.S. coast. In this speech, I'll inform you about the misguided concepts that the media is pushing out about the tsunami debris. I'll inform you about the current route patterns of the tsunami debris and how to help out with local cleanup and scientific research. My three main points are: 1, the misguided concepts of the tsunami debris field; 2, the current pattern of the tsunami debris; and 3, how to help out with scientific research and local beach cleanup. First is the misguided concepts of the tsunami debris field. The media is pushing out stories of a 3-mile radius of trash going to hit the West Coast by 2013. In reality, only out of the 25 million tons of wreckage, most of that is on the land of Japan, and only 5 million tons of debris is actually in the ocean. Now, most of that sank to the 5 to 10 miles out of the coast of Japan, so there's only 2 million tons of debris actually in the ocean right now. An estimated 1 to 5% of that will only reach the West Coast. So do the math, and it's not going to be a 3-mile radius with millions and millions of tons of trash hitting the West Coast. Most of this will be getting sucked up in the gyres across the Pacific Ocean. There's 5 gyres in the Pacific Ocean, which are circulating currents, as you can see here. The tsunami debris will be circulating and adding to the millions of tons of pollution in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And what researchers will be doing is going on a voyage to these gyres and actually assessing how much pollution and debris is still left in the ocean, as the media is still pushing out high numbers and reports of radioactivity with all this. However, there's not all the materials that will be washing up on the beaches will not have any radioactive materials with them, as the tsunami swept out all of the debris before the nuclear reactors failed. So there needs to be no worry about any radioactive materials. I'll talk about the current patterns now about the tsunami debris. Right now they're heading to the West Coast, and as I said, there's only about 2 million tons of debris left floating across the ocean, and only 1 to 5% will hit the West Coast. The wind plays a big factor. Some of the items, lighter items such as bottles, lighters, and lighter items have already reached some parts of Hawaii, and Canada has reported that a 150-foot fishing vessel has already reached the coast in British Columbia. And the reason why some of these items have already reached the coast before 2013, 2014, as the media is pushing out, the reasons they're up on the top of the surface of the water, so wind currents help speed up the progress. And the fishing vessel, since it had a sail, the wind progressed its journey across the ocean. Most of the items will be underneath, about a couple feet underneath the current, so those will take a lot slower, and those will be the items that will be showing up around 2013, 2014. Like I said, most of the items, they've already dropped to the ocean floor because they're heavier. Only the more buoyant items are still in journey across the ocean. They'll be going across the 5 gyres of the Pacific. And like I said, the gyres are circulating currents. So instead of a direct route to the West Coast, they'll be taking more circular patterns, and the winds are changing. They were first sending all the debris field towards the West Coast, but now the winds have picked up and actually been sending it more towards Japan. And as the currents have shifted, that's also affected with the gyres. So the debris field is not going to be hitting or having as large as impact on the West Coast as the media was pushing. Some items, like I said, will still be hitting the West Coast, but it will be fewer as we expected. A Russian training ship was going across seas, and at first they had seen a large debris field with refrigerators, they seen boats, they seen buoys, they saw a lot of wood and debris. But now, as they're going across the ocean, you could only see one item at a time. So when the media was pushing out a huge 3-mile radius debris field hitting the West Coast, that was their first prediction, as when they saw all the items and debris washed into the ocean, it was at first a large 3-mile radius debris field. But as the currents and the gyres across the Pacific Ocean keep the debris circulating, the debris is more scattered out across the ocean. Third, I will talk about the ocean cleanup and how to help out with scientific research. Scientists are going on a voyage across the 5 gyres of the Pacific, where they'll be assessing how much of the debris is actually still afloat in the ocean. Right now it's just all predictions and estimates, as they still think there's a good amount, as 2 million tons of debris is still a lot of debris in the ocean. So the pollution in the Pacific is still damaging. But if you find any items, what researchers want you to do is they want you to bag the items, they want the specific GPS location, they want the weather, and they want the time of day that you found it. So you could send in this item and send it in to researchers, and what they'll then do, they'll compile the evidence and all the stuff that's sent in, and they'll map out certain currents in the journeys of the debris field. And this will help them with scientific research of current patterns in the ocean, and how the wind affects trash in going into the ocean in the journey from places like Japan to the West Coast. So most of this debris is not going to be actually hitting the West Coast, and researchers are going to be taking this voyage to find out exactly how much will be hitting the West Coast, if any at all. They have already been conducting some more research, and some items, like I said, have been reaching the West Coast, but like they said, it will only be one item at a time rather than a huge compile of the tsunami debris. So I'm going to wrap up my speech. In this speech, I've informed you about the misguided predictions that the media pushed out about the tsunami field. I informed you about the current patterns that the debris field is taking, and I've informed you what to do and help out with scientific research and beach cleanup. The pollution, or the debris field, is not going to be as damaging to the West Coast as once thought, but the pollution in the Pacific Ocean is still large and very damaging to the environment. Thank you.